After the divorce, life settled into something that almost looked like peace. Rachel and I divided everything cleanly. No shouting. No lawyers throwing words like weapons. She moved 2 towns over with her new energy and her endless plans for reinvention. I stayed in the same house because stability was something our daughter, Emily, deserved. Every other weekend became a routine of packed bags, homework folders, and half-empty shampoo bottles. We were not perfect parents, but we were consistent, and sometimes that's enough. I learned to cook more than takeout, learned how to braid hair, and learned when silence meant safety. Rachel started dadding again before I did, and that was fine. I wanted her to be happy as long as Emily was okay. Her new boyfriend, Ryan, was loud in the way people get when they're insecure. Big watch, bigger smile, stories that started with "you wouldn't believe" and ended with nothing real. I kept my distance. I wasn't there to approve or disapprove. I was there to be the calm side of Emily's world. She grew fast, smarter than she knew, stubborn in ways that reminded me of myself. When she turned 18, she moved in with Rachel for a while, saying it was closer to her school. I let her. You don't hold on to kids with guilt. You just leave the door open and the lights on. Then one day, she called me with the kind of voice that mixes fear and excitement. She said, "Dad, I'm getting married." I paused long enough for her to think I hung up. Then I asked, "Do you have a plan?" She laughed nervously and said she did. I didn't tell her she was too young. I just asked for details, budget, date, expectations. When she told me they wanted something small but elegant, I offered to help. I promised $25,000 in total, including 15 for the dress she dreamed about since she was 16. She cried when I said it. It wasn't about money. It was about being seen, about a father saying, "I believe in you." We made it official with invoices, receipts, and payment schedules. I paid deposits with my card, not cash, because experience teaches you to love paper trails. I didn't want control. I wanted accountability. The first fitting day was chaos and joy. Emily twirled in front of a mirror, and for a moment I saw the little girl who used to stand on my shoes while we danced in the kitchen. I paid for the dress that made her glow. Rachel smiled, proud, maybe even grateful. Ryan tagged along, talking too loud about destination weddings and brand moments. I ignored him. I was just happy to see my daughter happy. Every week after, I got invoices from venues and vendors. I logged everything into a spreadsheet with color-coded tabs. That's how I love, through structure and preparation. Rachel once joked that I treated emotions like construction projects. Maybe she was right. But in a world that collapses easily, someone has to hold the foundation steady. I didn't know it then, but that foundation was about to crack from the inside. It started with a text message that looked harmless. "Can you come by Mom's house tonight? We need to talk." No details, no emojis, just those words sitting on my screen like a small warning. I drove there after work, still in my collared shirt, the smell of concrete dust on me. Rachel opened the door with a practiced smile, the one that hides tension behind politeness. Ryan was already there, lounging on the couch, telling some story that didn't need an audience. Emily sat at the table with a notebook in her lap, her eyes nervous but determined. I felt the shift in the room before anyone spoke. It was the kind of silence people build when rehearsing bad news. She took a breath and said, "Dad, I want to talk about the wedding." I nodded, waiting, because patience has always been my best armor. She said it quickly, as if ripping a bandage off. "I don't want you to walk me down the aisle." For a second, I thought I heard her wrong. Then she added, "I want Ryan to do it." The words hung there like smoke that wouldn't clear. Rachel looked at me, as if waiting for me to explode. Ryan gave a slow shrug, pretending humility, but I saw the flicker of pride in his face. I didn't say anything. I've learned that the first reaction is the most dangerous one. So I just asked, Why? Emily said, because you're controlling everything with money. Because it's supposed to be my wedding, not yours. And because it would be embarrassing. The last word hit harder than all the others. Embarrassing. That's what you call an outdated suit, not your father. I swallowed the anger because anger never teaches. I said softly, embarrassing how? She looked down. Rachel reached out as if to comfort her, but her silence said she agreed. Ryan stayed quiet, smiling just enough to make me want to break something. I told Emily, you're right, it's your wedding. You get to choose who stands with you. I let the pause stretch. But my money also gets to choose where it goes. Her eyes widened. I continued, if my role isn't welcome, then my funding isn't either. I'll cover what's non-refundable, but after that, you're on your own. Rachel's voice snapped like static. Mark, don't do this. Don't ruin her day. I turned to her and said, I'm not ruining anything. I'm stepping out of something I'm not invited to. Ryan laughed under his breath, a small, smug sound. Emily's eyes filled with tears. She said she loved me, that I didn't understand. I said, I understand perfectly. You want independence. Now you'll have it. Then I stood up, nodded once and walked out. The drive home felt longer than it should have. Every mile hummed with the sound of disappointment. When I got home, I opened my laptop and started drafting emails. Not angry ones. Just practical ones. It was time to turn emotion into logistics, because that's how I survive. By morning, I had decided I would stop paying for a place I wasn't allowed to stand. The next morning started with coffee and clarity. I sat at the kitchen table and opened every invoice, every receipt, every contract. Each line item was a reminder of how much I'd given and how little I was wanted. I began writing emails, one after another, like closing doors quietly instead of slamming them. To the venue, I will not be making the next payment. To the photographer, please update your contact information to the bride. To the caterer, the head count will be handled by someone else. Every message was polite, factual, and final. No anger, no explanations. Just boundaries. I attached all receipts to one email for Emily and Rachel. The subject line read, summary of my contributions. I listed every vendor, every dollar, and every term I had fulfilled. Then I wrote one sentence that said everything I needed. I will no longer be participating financially or personally in this event. I hit send. Then I called the travel agent and canceled the honeymoon. She sounded disappointed until she checked the policy. Full refund minus $75. I told her to keep the fee. Sometimes peace costs a small price. After that, I called the bridal boutique. The dress had already been paid in full, $15,482. The policy was clear. No refunds, no exchanges, pick up only by the purchaser. That was me. I told the owner there had been a family issue and that I would pick it up personally. She didn't ask for details. I appreciated that. By noon, everything was set. The wedding could continue, but not on my wallet. I felt lighter, not happy, just steady. That night, my phone lit up with messages. Emily first. Then Rachel. Long paragraphs filled with accusations. They said I was ruining her big day, proving her right, acting petty. I didn't answer. You can't reason with people who are mid-performance. I just saved every message. Silence became my defense. 2 days later, I got a call from the boutique. The dress was ready ahead of schedule. I drove there after work, signed the release, and lifted the gown like it was glass. White fabric, delicate beadwork, heavy in ways only money can make heavy. I placed it in the back seat carefully, as if it still meant something. When I got home, I hung it in the spare room and turned on the dehumidifier. It wasn't revenge. It was ownership. That night, Emily called again, her voice sharp from crying. She accused me of sabotaging her wedding. I told her the dress was safe, and so was my dignity. "I'm not paying to sit in the audience," I said. Then I ended the call before my voice could crack. When the silence settled, I realized I didn't feel broken. I felt awake. Sometimes walking away isn't weakness. It's the only way to stop people from spending your love like a credit card. 2 days later, an unexpected email landed in my inbox. It was from the travel agent I had canceled with. She wrote, "Just a heads up, someone named Ryan Miller called about your booking. He had tried to upgrade the honeymoon suite and extend the trip to 10 days. He wasn't listed on the reservation, so she refused to discuss details." Still, her message lit a quiet alarm in my head. You don't upgrade a trip you didn't pay for unless you think it already belongs to you. That night, I sat at my desk and opened my laptop. I searched public records like I was back in the office solving a problem. It didn't take long to find something strange. Ryan's full name was Ryan Miller. It was Charles Ryan Miller. And next to that name was a document I didn't expect to see, a marriage license from 2021. No record of divorce. No annulment. No dissolution. Just an active, legal marriage filed in another county. My stomach sank, but my focus sharpened. I double-checked the clerk's website, cross-referenced addresses, and printed what I found. The next morning, I called the county clerk's office. They confirmed it. Charles Miller was still legally married. I asked how to obtain certified copies of the record. They told me where to send the request. I mailed it before lunch. By evening, I had already decided what to do. I wasn't going to shout, post, or warn anyone with half-truths. I was going to use facts, not drama. That's how you make consequences stick. When the documents arrived, I contacted a private investigator I'd worked with years ago. He verified the details and added one more thing. There was an active separation case. The spouse, a woman named Danielle, had been trying to serve Ryan for 6 months. He'd been avoiding service, moving between addresses. His current address matched Rachel's house. That was enough for me. I found Danielle on social media. Her page was quiet, filled with photos of kids and family dinners. She looked tired, like someone who'd been waiting for truth to surface. I sent her a short, respectful message. "I believe the man you're married to is about to walk my daughter down the aisle. I have records confirming your marriage is still active. I don't want to interfere with your life, but if you need his location to serve him, I'll share it." She replied the next morning. "Yes, I'm still legally married to him. Thank you for reaching out." Her words carried both exhaustion and relief. She asked if he would be somewhere specific soon. I told her there was a wedding rehearsal on Friday evening. She thanked me and said a process server would handle it. No drama, no confrontation. Just paperwork meeting its destination. I closed my laptop and exhaled for the first time in days. Truth was coming, quiet and steady, like a train that never misses its stop. Friday arrived like a storm pretending to be calm. I went to work, kept my head down, and waited for the evening to pass. The rehearsal dinner was scheduled for 7 at a fancy restaurant attached to the venue. I had no plans to be there. My part in the story was already written. At 7:26 p.m., my phone buzzed with a single message from an unknown number. Service completed. Attached was a timestamp and a photo of a man holding folded documents. Ryan had just been served in front of everyone. I stared at the screen for a long moment, not smiling, not gloating, just breathing. 30 minutes later, my phone lit up again and again. First Rachel, then Emily, then a number I didn't know. Every vibration felt like the echo of a truth, landing exactly where it should. I didn't answer any of them. When I finally opened the messages, they were chaos. Rachel's texts were furious, full of accusations about humiliation and cruelty. Emily were different. Her first one was just a line of capital letters. The second said, "Was this you?" The third only said, "Why?" I typed slowly, choosing each word with care. "You made a decision about who represents you. I made a decision about what I fund. The rest is just consequence." Then I put the phone down and let the night do what it needed to. Later, Emily called. Her voice was smaller than I remembered. She asked if the papers were real. I told her yes, and explained how to check the case number herself. She cried, the kind of crying that comes from confusion, not anger. She asked if I did it to hurt her. I said no. I did it so you'd see the truth before you walked into something that would destroy you. Silence stretched between us like a fragile bridge. Finally, she whispered, "He lied to me." I said, "He lied to everyone." Rachel's next message came minutes later, long paragraphs filled with rage. She said I abused the system, that I embarrassed her, that I wanted to ruin her life. I replied once, attached the certified marriage record and the legal statute about public documents. Then I wrote only 2 words. Public record. I left it at that. I didn't sleep much that night, but I didn't feel regret either. Some truths don't need applause. They just need daylight. The next morning, I woke to silence. No new messages. No phone calls. I knew what that meant. The wedding wasn't happening, at least not yet. I poured coffee and sat by the window, watching the sunrise break through gray clouds. It felt like the world had reset itself, uncomfortable but clean. When you stop paying for lies, everything sounds quieter. Even the truth. The morning of the wedding arrived heavy and slow. I wasn't invited, but the silence felt louder than any rejection. At noon, my phone rang. It was Emily. Her voice trembled, wrapped in confusion and exhaustion. She said the ceremony was paused. The officiant refused to continue until questions about Ryan were answered. The groom's parents wanted clarity, not scandal. They were calm, too calm, like people who understood truth when they saw it. She asked if I could meet her at the venue, just to talk. I said yes, but only outside. When I pulled into the parking lot, she came out wearing a robe, her hair half done. She looked young and old at the same time. She sat in my truck, quiet for a full minute before words came out. "Dad, I didn't know," she said, her voice breaking. "I didn't know he was married." Tears fell, but she didn't hide them. I told her, knowing the truth late is still better than never. She asked if I hated her. I said no. I just couldn't keep paying for a story where I was the villain. She nodded slowly, shoulders shaking. Then she asked, "Will you still walk me down the aisle?" I smiled, but it was a sad one. "Someday," I said. "But not today. Today isn't a day that deserves that moment." She cried harder, the kind of cry that drains you clean. We sat there until her breathing steadied. Then we walked back inside together. The air felt lighter, even though the building held disappointment. Guests were being gently told to go home. The photographer offered to reschedule. The caterer boxed up the food. The venue manager spoke in that calm tone only professionals in chaos can manage. Rachel was in the corner, pale and furious. She tried to come toward me, words already forming like knives. The manager stepped between us and told her, "Not now." I nodded in quiet gratitude. Emily stayed beside me the whole time, holding her robe closed with shaking hands. When it was over, the crowd thinned to nothing but family and staff. The world didn't end. Only pride did. Back home, the wedding dress hung in the spare room, still perfect, still untouched. I opened the closet and stared at it for a long time. It was beautiful and heavy, like a symbol of everything that almost happened. I didn't feel victorious. I felt older, wiser, and sad in a clean way. A few days later, Emily came to my house again. She sat at the kitchen table, the same one where I had written all those cancellation emails. She apologized without excuses. She said she'd let anger turn into rebellion and confusion into pride. I listened. Then I told her that love isn't measured by how much we forgive, but by what we refuse to repeat. She nodded. We didn't fix everything that night, but we started rebuilding something better: respect. 6 months later, Emily married Tyler in a small courthouse ceremony. No decorations, no luxury, just honesty and sunlight through clean windows. She wore a simple white dress, elegant and real, nothing that needed guarding. I wore the same suit I'd worn to meetings, the one that still fit quietly. This time, she asked me to walk her down the aisle, and I did. No audience, no tension, just her hand on my arm, steady and sure. The vows were short, the signatures neat, the silence peaceful. Afterward, we had lunch together. No speeches, no tears, just relief. The old dress had been sold, and the money became part of her new home fund. I called it a trade between illusion and foundation. Rachel didn't come, and that was fine. Some endings don't need witnesses. That night, I slept better than I had in years. Not because I'd won, but because everything was finally honest. Love doesn't need to be loud to be strong. Sometimes dignity is the only revenge worth keeping. I stopped funding lies and started investing in peace. And for the first time in a long time, the quiet felt like victory.